April 19th, we got a chance to witness something historic. Now, historic can be debatable depending on who you are and what you care about. But for me, it was historic because it was the very first time that Jerry Lorenzo had his own runway show for Fear of God. Now, if you know anything about me, you know I am a Fear of God, not just fan or stan. I am a Fear of God Jerry Lorenzo student. I've been watching and following his career for quite some time now, and beyond the hype of the fashion, beyond the hype of streetwear culture or luxury wear culture, I've been studying Jerry Lorenzo for quite some time and have really picked up some principles and things from him along the way that allowed me to, as a consumer of Fear of God products, to be excited about this next iteration of what he was walking into. It is the culmination of everything that he's worked for over the past 11 years since Fear of God was founded in 2012. And it literally was founded because Jerry Lorenzo had this innate desire to produce this short-sleeved hoodie with zippers. And it was something that the market did not have at hand ready for him. And so he took it upon himself after producing these crazy parties called JL Nights and becoming a fashion consultant for a guy that played in Major League Baseball. And coming out of his retail experience, he was like, I need to propose something in the market that is for me that I don't yet see. And so to see him finally have his first runway show during Coachella at the Hollywood Bowl to announce the 8th collection of Mainline, to announce some new essentials pieces, to display what he's been able to do in his collaboration with Adidas. It was just phenomenal to experience from afar. And looking at the life of Jerry Lorenzo, I started to see some patterns and some similarities to what he's doing with Fear of God and what I plan to do with River Network. It's this proposition to the market for something that you're longing, but we don't even know if the market is ready for it. I can remember back in my own journey of being in content creation and filming and doing stuff on social media exclusively for the past 8 years. I distinctively remember the moment I walked into a pawn shop and I went to the glass desk and I looked inside and I saw something that would capture my eye. And it was this little camera right here, this Sony A6000, because I just wanted to put something into the market that I wasn't seeing yet. 8 to 10 years ago, we didn't see it in mass, where Christian content was just at the ready. We didn't see it in mass where pastors or speakers were speaking directly to a camera on social media. But when I saw this camera and I thought about what God wanted to do in and through me, it's kind of like me saying, I want a short sleeve hoodie with zippers. I want something that the market doesn't have yet. And so to see where Jerry has come from to where he is now, and to look at my content from where it's come from to where it is now, it's momentous, because life keeps going and you keep growing every day you decide to wake up and do the thing that God created you to do. The crazy thing about Jerry Lorenzo, again, I told you I'm a student, so I know a lot about him from afar. Don't know him personally. If he ever sees this, I love you. I would love to meet with you. But everything I know is from afar, and I've done a lot of studying on him. But when you look at him, he defies all traditions of fashion. He doesn't produce in seasons. He doesn't release when the fashion seasons tell you have to release. He releases when the project is ready. And he builds a story around the project that will invoke not just a sense to buy, but a sense to feel, a sense to belong, a part of this fear of God ethos, if you will. And him doing his first ever runway show during Coachella is outside of runway season. We're not in runway season right now, but he decided that if I'm going to do it, I have to do it when it's ready and not when outside forces are telling me when I needed to get it done. And that's a lot like River. When God gave me River, Jesus, it was like 3 years ago now. He gave me a scripture and then he gave me imagery. And the imagery that he gave me is one of the biggest reasons why I started to hone in on what Jerry was doing at Fear of God. Number one, the scripture that he gave me was Isaiah 43:19. Behold, I will do a new thing. Do you not see it? I'm making ways in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. When he gave me this scripture, he of course had me hone in on rivers in the desert. And he started to show me imagery about the desert, it being this grungy place, the colors, the mood of the desert, the textures, the tone, the aesthetic of what the desert looked like. Number two, the second piece of the imagery that he gave me was, what would the earth have looked like when Jesus was walking? Like, if we're going to be a Christian content media house and just be Christians, I want to produce things that have this simple yet elegant edge to it that I believe Jesus himself would have been looking at as he was traveling along his journey. So the stones, the woods, the granite, there's a Japanese term called wabi-sabi, which means to surround yourself with elements in their most authentic, raw form, and how they're imperfect and how they may have things that are damaged about them. And I think that's a lot of us. Our Christian walk is this wabi-sabi, embracing the imperfections, knowing that God uses imperfect people perfectly when it's within his plan. So what did that look like? Number three, the imagery that he gave me, what does heaven look like? Like for me, I'm always envisioning, what does heaven look like? And all of those things to me are reflected in the imagery that Jerry produces with Fear of God, and the imagery that I saw as God was downloading his thoughts about River to me. So I'm in this moment now where I've been in the content creation space for almost a decade, and River is about a year old now from, its announcement. And we're in a space and a season where we're of course doing this campaign to launch season 2 of the Beyond the Short podcast. And season 2 for me is my short-sleeved hoodie with zippers. It's finally proposing to the market what the River Network will be. Season 1 was my ideation phase. It was me kind of working through ideas, working through timing, figuring out how this thing needs to operate just at its bare bones, no effort into it. Let's just jump in it and figure it out. Season 2 shifts from ideation to implementation. And I was having this conversation last night with a friend about shifting from ideation to implementation. And implementation requires a proposition to the market. But here's the crazy thing about propositions to the market is there is no guarantee of success. But the catch-22 is there is no opportunity for success without a proposition. And that's what we're doing with season 2 of the Beyond the Shore. That's why it's important to me to do this thing right. It's important to me to invest heavily into season 2 and not just experiment, but actually invest into it. Invest into the production, invest into the quality, and just putting an actual storyline around this. And here's what I found out. Here's the goodness of God, is that once you start to pursue what God has called you to, he starts to open up doors for you. I mentioned this is first camera that I got, and man, this couldn't have been no more than $300. Couldn't have been no more than $300 because I can guarantee you anything outside of that at that age, that was crazy for me. Couldn't have been no more than $300, maybe 400. I'll give it that. But what you're looking at, this camera and this camera, it's the goodness of God. When God gave me River, and I shared it with my wife, and she gave me the green light to go do it, and that she would back me, I shared it with another friend of mine, and that friend of mine said, what do you need to get it done? What do you need to take what you're doing from a content perspective and actually make it a thing? I said, well, got this wish list. I've got these desires of what I would like to see happen. And then, you ever created a list and then you've got the list that you'll settle for? It's like, I want this, but I'll settle for this. I had both of those. And so I went into this conversation saying, I got this list and it's my faith list. It's my crazy faith list for now. And then I've got this list of, I can get by and then we can build from here. And the friend looked at me and said, give me your faith list. I got to tell you, this faith list was crazy. This faith list was well beyond what I could have ever thought to get in the moment. And once I gave it to him, he proceeded to ensure that River had what it needed to not just get started, but to really be serious about this thing. And we've been able to steward and manage what we've been given. And God has breathed on the quality of content that we're putting out right now. And now we're just saying, God, I got this list. I'm believing you for it, but I got this other list over here that, if you don't come through on this one, we'll be good here. And this is what season 2 is. Season 2 is us submitting our list to God and saying, I believe in the promises that you've given me. And here is how I want to give it back to you. And maybe some of you are watching me right now, and you've got your own list that you're currently thinking about, your 2 lists. Can I tell you that God is waiting on you to not just have your list, but to give it to him and say, God, here's what I have in my hand. Take it, break it, and multiply it. It's kind of like the boy from the 2 fish and 5 loaves story. He didn't have much, but Jesus took what he had, a little $300 camera, and he broke it. And he multiplied it. And he did more with what was in his hands that he was willing to give back to God. And that's what season 2 of the Beyond the Shore podcast is. It is me saying, God, you gave me the idea of River. You gave me the thought, the plan, the action. and I'm giving it back to you. And here's the best that I've got. And I hope you're happy with it. And when you give it back to him, he says, that's what I was waiting on. Now let me breathe on it and multiply what you wanted to do. So I got on here to share that with you guys because I felt like some of us could need some encouragement right now. Even if it's just for me to watch back and be encouraged. We're in a season where if you obey the voice of God, there is no good thing that he will withhold from you. So we are wrapping up the campaign for season 2 this coming Friday. You have an opportunity to still give and partner with us. Some people have already given and partnered with us, and it has been crazy what they've given, like privately, publicly. It's insane. And I'm excited about it. Thank you to everybody that's going to partner with us. Season 2 is about to be insane. It's our proposition to the world that the river is here and the flow has opened up. Thank you so much for being on the journey. I love you. Let's go get it.